There is a moment in extra time of a World Cup knockout match when a header crosses the line and for a few seconds an entire football nation allows itself to believe. Jonathan Tah rising at the back post, meeting Nathaniel Brown's corner with a header of real conviction, the ball flying past Paraguay goalkeeper Orlando Gil and into the net. The 102nd minute, Germany 2, Paraguay 1. The four-time champions, back in the lead, back in control of a knockout tie that had been theirs to dominate from the first whistle. Then the flag of review. Then Moroccan referee Jalal Jayed walking to the pitchside monitor. Then the announcement that silenced the celebrations before they had properly begun. Foul. Goal disallowed. Waldemar Anton, the German defender, judged to have blocked Gil's path to the ball before Tah's header crossed the line. The score reverted to 1-1, and from that single decision in a stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, one of the most stunning results in modern World Cup history began to take shape. Paraguay, ranked 34th in the world, a nation who had never previously won a World Cup knockout match in their history, eliminated Germany on penalties, 4-3. The four-time world champions, in their first knockout match since lifting the trophy in Brazil in 2014, are out of the 2026 World Cup in the round of 32. So what's really happening here? And was the decision that changed everything actually the right one? Let's start with the facts of the match itself, because the context matters before we get to the controversy. Germany had entered this tournament with genuine expectations. Julian Nagelsmann's squad, built around a generation that includes Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, and the returning Manuel Neuer at 40 years old, had been spoken about as genuine contenders. They had topped their group. They arrived in Foxborough as clear favorites against a Paraguay side who had reached the knockout rounds for the first time since South Africa 2010, where they advanced past Japan on penalties before losing to eventual champions Spain in the quarterfinals. Julio Enciso gave Paraguay a shock lead in the 42nd minute. Kai Havertz equalized for Germany in the 54th, restoring the natural order that everyone watching expected to continue. Germany pressed, Germany created chances, Germany, by every reasonable measure of the match's flow, deserved to win in normal time. They didn't manage it. The match went to extra time at 1-1, and that is when Tah's header arrived, and that is when everything changed. Here's where the controversy needs to be examined honestly and in full detail, because the consensus among football's most respected analysts and former professionals, almost without exception, was that the goal should have stood. The VAR review centered on whether Anton had committed what's known as a block foul on Gil, physically impeding the goalkeeper's ability to reach the ball before Tah's header arrived. ESPN's detailed VAR review of the incident delivered its verdict in language that left little room for ambiguity. This was not a foul block by Germany's Anton, and this goal should have stood. The review found it was both a poor intervention by the VAR and an equally disappointing decision from the on-field referee to overturn his original call. The analysis specifically noted that Anton was entitled to hold his ground in that situation, and that it was in fact the Paraguay goalkeeper who turned into the German defender, going to ground once he felt contact, rather than as the result of any genuine foul action. Former England captain Alan Shearer, commentating for the BBC, was equally direct. He called the foul very, very soft. He said simply, "Not for me. I don't agree with that decision at all." Former United States goalkeeper Brad Friedel, working the World Feed broadcast, focused specifically on Gil's reaction. "There's no reason for the goalkeeper to fall to the ground at all," he said. He suggested Gil had got up off his feet right as he saw Tah preparing to head the ball, accusing the Paraguayan keeper of playing to the referee and getting away with it. Peter Schmeichel, working for Fox Soccer, added his own assessment. "I don't think it's a foul," he said. "The goalkeeper has run straight into him." Three of the most respected voices in world football broadcasting a Premier League and England goal-scoring legend, a World Cup-winning American goalkeeper, and one of the greatest goalkeepers Denmark and Manchester United have ever produced, independently reached the same conclusion: the goal should have stood. Germany were denied a legitimate lead in extra time of a World Cup knockout match by what the analysis described in plain terms as a poor process and a poor outcome from the match officials. This matters enormously in the context of everything else this tournament's VAR system has already produced. The Switzerland against Qatar penalty in the opening week, where the decisive visual evidence was never shown to the public. The Argentina against Algeria controversy, where Messi avoided a card for a challenge that experienced analysts said deserved red, and where Algeria's federation subsequently filed a formal complaint with FIFA in Zurich. Carlos Queiroz telling the press that VAR went for a coffee when Ghana were denied what he called a clear penalty against England. Iran's disallowed goal in stoppage time against Egypt, where the technically correct offside call was devastating in its consequence. And now Germany, eliminated from the World Cup, with the single most consequential decision of the match, described by three of the sport's most respected former professionals as wrong. Think about what that pattern represents across a single tournament. Not one disputed call, not two. A consistent, repeated, documented series of VAR interventions that respected analysts, former players, and now national federations have publicly questioned. The system that was introduced to remove controversy from football has, at this World Cup, become one of its most consistent sources of it.
Now bring in the human dimension of what this elimination means for Germany specifically. Because this is not simply a knockout defeat, it is the end of the road for a four-time world champion in their first knockout match since winning the trophy in 2014, against a nation who had never previously beaten them at a World Cup, and who had won only a single knockout match in their entire World Cup history before tonight. Germany's penalty shootout was a horror show of missed opportunities on both sides. Kai Havertz missed, Nick Woltemade missed, Antonio Sanabria missed for Paraguay, giving Germany a route back into the shootout when Manuel Neuer saved Fabian Balbuena's effort. The door reopened. And then Jonathan Tah, the same player whose disallowed header had defined the match's central controversy, stepped up and skied his penalty over the bar. Jose Canel converted the next kick for Paraguay, 4-3. Germany's first ever World Cup penalty shootout defeat in their entire history. Paraguay's goalkeeper Orlando Gil, the same man at the center of the disallowed goal controversy, made the saves that won the shootout. He said afterward that they had analyzed every player, every detail, and that thanks to that preparation, he was only able to miss 2 penalties out of the ones he faced. His performance throughout extra time was extraordinary, regardless of the controversy surrounding him. He denied Havertz's header with an outstretched hand, turned away Anton's effort from point-blank range in the 119th minute, and then delivered in the shootout when it mattered most. For Germany, the consequences extend beyond a single result. Havertz, speaking afterward, captured the weight of the disappointment precisely. He said they had very big plans for this World Cup. He said, "It's very difficult to disappoint again," referencing Germany's pattern of underwhelming tournament performances stretching back through Russia 2018 and Qatar 2022, where the 4-time world champions suffered consecutive group stage exits before this campaign's return to relevance. He said it was difficult to create chances and keep the pace. That admission from one of Germany's most senior and experienced players tells you something about a national team that arrived with genuine ambition and leaves having been eliminated by a nation ranked 34 places below them. Julian Nagelsmann addressed his own future after the match, with reports suggesting a football legend within the German setup called for consequences and said simply, "It's over." Language that suggests this defeat may have implications well beyond this single tournament for the structure and leadership of the national team program. For Paraguay, the magnitude of what they achieved cannot be overstated. This is a nation who had appeared in 5 previous World Cup knockout matches across their history and failed to score in every single one of them. They had advanced only once, that 2010 victory over Japan on penalties. Now, they have beaten a 4-time World Cup winner in extra time on penalties in the knockout rounds of the biggest tournament in the sport. They will face the winner of France against Sweden in the round of 16 in Philadelphia, carrying with them one of the most remarkable upset stories this competition has produced in years. Here's the bigger issue that sits underneath this single extraordinary result. The VAR controversy that defined this match's central moment did not simply cost Germany a goal, it cost them momentum at the exact point in extra time when teams are at their most fatigued and most vulnerable to a swing in psychological advantage. Germany went from believing they had taken control of the match to being told, by a video review and a Moroccan referee's walk to the monitor, that they hadn't. The disallowed goal didn't just erase 2 points on a scoreboard, it changed the emotional trajectory of the remaining minutes of extra time, and by extension, it changed how both teams approached the most pressure-filled moments of the penalty shootout that followed. Whether Germany would have gone on to win the match had Tau's goal been allowed to stand is of course something nobody can know with certainty. Football doesn't work in clean hypotheticals. But the consensus among the people whose job it is to analyze these moments professionally, Shearer, Friedel, Schmeichel, and the formal VAR review process conducted independently by major broadcasters, is unambiguous. The intervention was wrong. The goal should have stood. And a 4-time World Cup champion is going home earlier than anyone, including Paraguay themselves, genuinely expected. What do you think? When you look at the pattern of VAR controversies across this entire tournament, Switzerland and Qatar, Argentina and Algeria, Ghana and England, Iran and Egypt, and now Germany and Paraguay, does this feel like the unavoidable difficulty of officiating football at the highest level? Or does it feel like a system that has, across 6 weeks, repeatedly failed the very standard of certainty it was built to provide? If you found this worth your time, a like helps more than you think. Subscribe if you enjoy thoughtful football coverage, and let me know your view in the comments. I read every one.